Before I get into the meat of this video, I'd like to tell you a story. Many years ago, I was trying to land a contract as a business consultant to a large international group of companies. Part of the tender process was to turn up at what was otherwise referred to as an interview. It wasn't really an interview, but it was part of this tender process. In that tender process, they presented to each person going in for the contract a problem and asked you what you would do to resolve this problem if you were the consultant. What they said was they have a huge debt that they're trying to reclaim. It was for many millions of pounds, and they were trying to recover this debt and wanted your opinions on what you would do as the contractor to go about recovering this money. After one or two questions about the business structure and operations, it was clear that they were operating under the normal VAT rules, which is that they pay VAT on invoices that they've raised as against a cash accounting VAT system where they only pay VAT on the money that they receive. My next question, of course, was whether or not they'd reclaimed the VAT on the bad debt, i.e. the VAT that they'd paid on invoices raised but hadn't been paid to them. There was a resounding and deafening silence in the room, a realization that several £million worth of VAT had been paid across and not claimed back. So within the first 10 minutes and on my first suggestion, they realized that they could reclaim many millions of pounds on the bad debt because they'd paid this over and not been paid by their customers. The second suggestion was that we go through each of these invoices and the process of how that these invoices are raised. Long story short, one person, instead of sending the invoices off, was filing them in a drawer on the assumption that someone else had a copy of the invoice and sent it off to the client. Unsurprisingly, those invoices were not paid. These invoices from this one person alone amounted to several £100,000, and that wasn't the only person doing it. So why am I telling you this story? Because each of us and businesses waste money every single year. Now this video, as you've gleaned from the thumbnail and the title, is about gift cards, because research carried out by the UK Gift Card and Voucher Association reveals that over £300 million of gift cards every single year go unspent. Think about that for a moment. We are in a cost of living crisis, and around £300 million every single year is been spent on gift cards that go unspent. It's completely wasted, be it birthdays, anniversaries, general gifts, or generosity. They simply go unspent. You open the card, it goes in a drawer, it might be limited to a shop, it might be limited to a certain range of shops, but the net result is it goes unspent and then expires. So I thought to do a little video about some of the rules about this, because they're not entirely straightforward and they differ even between England and Wales and Ireland and internationally. For example, the expiry date under federal law in the United States, I understand that it cannot expire in less than 5 years. The same goes for Ireland, but in England and Wales, that's not the case. The only law that really seems to apply in England and Wales is the fairness of the terms. For example, under the Consumer Rights Act of 2015, specifically section 62 sub 4, terms are going to be considered to be unfair if they are contrary to the requirement of good faith. In other words, for example, if the gift card expired within a very short period of time and it wasn't made known to you, that might be contrary to the requirement of good faith, or if it causes a significant imbalance in the parties' rights and obligations under the contract, which is to the detriment of the consumer, because the Consumer Rights Act is really to protect the consumer and, of course, make things clear and transparent between the consumer and the trader. So if there was an unfair term in respect of the expiry date of the gift card voucher, then it would be unenforceable against the consumer, because obviously it would be unfair. As to whether a consumer in England and Wales has a right to return an unused gift card, the only legislation that really seems to cover this is the cooling off period if it's a distance or off-premises contract. That is, if you buy it online or somebody comes out to sell it to you and you're not on the trader's premises. This would mean that you should be able to cancel it within 14 days if it was a distance or off-premises contract. It's also important to remember that you don't lose your statutory rights when buying a product that might be faulty, in that you've got the right to reject the product or have it repaired or replaced. But if you've paid for it with a gift card, you cannot insist on having cash in return. You can insist on having the gift card reinstated because your statutory rights remain unaffected in that you can return it or have it repaired or replaced. However, any rights in respect of the gift card itself can only really be enforced by the person that purchased the gift card, because you, as the recipient of the gift card, don't have a contract with whoever sold the gift card in the first place. As to the terms as to where it can be spent and the expiry, well, subject to what I said about the fairness beforehand, it's important to read the terms of any gift card so that you know exactly what they are, both as the person purchasing the gift card and the person receiving it. As to whether the company goes bust, you become a creditor, or rather the person that purchased the gift card in the first place becomes a creditor of the company if they go bust, if you have a gift card. So you can probably tell that I'm only really scratching the surface of all the rules and the complications with gift cards, and frankly, I'm not a huge fan of gift cards, particularly when I looked up the statistics to see that we are collectively wasting £300 million a year, and that's just in the UK, let alone internationally, that could otherwise be saved or spent more sensibly. So I really don't want to be seen as the Scrooge of Christmas, but if you're thinking about buying a gift card, look into the terms and conditions as to where it can be spent, whether the recipient is really going to want and be able to spend it in those places, and within the time frame, within the expiry. Because remember, in England and Wales, there is no set expiry time. You do need to check these things before you buy it. So with that said, I hope you enjoyed the story. I hope it's given you something to think about. Please like the video and subscribe. I really do appreciate that. And as a by the way, and a humble brag that I put in my post just recently, a big thank you to I Spy Audit, who I'll tag in the description, for nominating me for the Modern Law Award for Marketing and Communication Strategy of the Year. But this is now open for nominations again. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. Thanks for watching.